We're here with another episode of Before You Buy, that show where we give you some straight up gameplay and our first impressions of the latest games releasing. And as usual, it's me, Jake Baldino, and today we're talking about Shadow of the Tomb Raider. And they've been saying this is the final chapter in what has been an origin trilogy for this new rebooted Lara Croft. I don't know what they're gonna do next, but what we have here is a satisfying entry with some trappings and some failings. I'll get into it, but really, if you're not a fan of these games, this one isn't suddenly gonna win you over at all. But if you've been a fan since the rebooted Tomb Raider and then Rise of the Tomb Raider, buckle up, because this is a solid and really fun entry, plain and simple. It drops you in a few months after the events of Rise of the Tomb Raider, and Lara and Jonah are hot on the heels of Trinity, and they're tracking them down and trying to cut them off and disrupt their operations at pretty much every turn. And at this point, Lara is finally really a bit more badass. She's kind of jacked, she's got some guns, she's better at killing than ever, and the game finally acknowledges it a bit, which is refreshing. Interesting side note, I really enjoy the new main costume design. The dark blue sleeveless upper shirt feels ever so slightly evocative of the original classic Tomb Raider design, and I'm into that. But I digress. What you get here is a slightly more lethal Lara. Combat and stealth is a bit more freeform now, with being able to like run and hide after being spotted becoming more of an easy thing. Environments have a bit more ways to play around with enemies thanks to this slight camouflage system allowing you to cover yourself in mud and blend in and creep through vines and ivy and walls. And from there, it just goes full Rambo Predator shit where you can stalk and murder dudes with a really big combat knife that she literally just places into dudes' skulls. It's not like a complete game changer, but it carries a theme through a game that just feels nasty, from the brutal stabbings to ancient cult executions and just an apocalyptic plot. These games have gotten gory and scary before, but Shadow feels a cut above. I think it's also because of the intro. Keep in mind, the game doesn't really do anything to fill you in at all. Like, if you haven't played the previous games, look up a wiki, I don't know what to tell you. But man, the opening hour or so is so freaking awesome. It takes you to a couple places and does some really fun things with moments that I can't wait to watch again. This game also seems to have wanted to say or do something a bit larger with Lara's character. It does ask a few questions and shows a few fun sides of Lara's character that I think old school Tomb Raider fans might actually appreciate, but as the ball gets rolling, it doesn't really address some of it as much, again, except for like a few spots. Even if it doesn't break too much ground, where it does do well is a relationship between Jonah and Lara. I think the voice acting of the NPCs in the game isn't too hot at all, but Jonah and Lara kill it, particularly in a few good, drawn-out, dramatic scenes. There's also quite a good chunk of game here. There are now genuine hub worlds that feel pretty dense. Where previous games saw humble little survival huts and groups, you encounter two main hub areas here filled with pedestrians and side quest givers and merchants to trade with. And it fits into the modern Tomb Raider formula pretty well. Areas are designed similarly to previous games. There are like hidden sections everywhere and stuff that can be accessed by coming back later with new equipment. But the ins and outs of areas work really well with this more fleshed out side quest system. Now you'll have genuine encounters and somewhat more interesting stuff to do. There's not like a metric ton, but it's good if you want to grind for more gear. Which all the gear stuff, I gotta say, is more satisfying than ever. Tombs and crypts that are optional side diversions are stronger than they've ever been, feeling way more distinct and even more challenging as you go along. It's safe to say that these are definitely my favorite parts of the game. They always have been, but now it's a definite in Shadow. Plus, the rewards now are really sweet because you actually get unique gear items for Lara. I spent a really long time in this game, more than I expected, just exploring and hunting in the open areas, and I love that. Otherwise, in terms of newness, though, you have a bigger upgrade tree, weapons with multiple tiers of new upgrades and attachments, a nice rope dart kill move, and some small unlockable stuff I won't spoil. Rappelling and grappling feels a little bit stronger, and there are a lot more swimming sections that don't completely suck, like in a lot of games. There seems to be an emphasis here for stressful underwater sequences. She swims better, kills underwater better, but there's underwater stealth sequences with killer piranhas to sneak past that can kind of like instantly kill you, and I found that a bit annoying. Something I did appreciate, which might sound weird, is that they slightly toned down the combat. By that, I just mean how much of it. Encounters feel a bit more important now because they don't always come every 5 seconds. There is a way more emphasis on exploration and tombs and some really satisfying puzzles, and I like the shift. It's very slight, it's a slight shift. Some people might not even notice it, but I did. It also looks fantastic. For this footage, I captured it on an Xbox One X, and with the upgraded consoles, you get the choice between prioritizing resolution or frame rate. Light and shadows look great. Character detail and general eye for small stuff that these games have had in the past cast is awesome. Characters sweat, they get dirty, they get muddy, they get scraped and bloody, and it never gets old, especially when you're hunting mercenaries or like jaguars or something. It does feel like it's the least polished of the three. I did encounter way more glitches than I expected. Nothing game-breaking, nothing even really to turn off people who are sensitive to buggy games. Just a few very small issues and some frame rate dips in the larger areas, even on a 1X. But it is worth mentioning there are still some dazzling set piece moments too. Like, I think it only raises the bar in a few places. I have more memorable moments for me from the first game, but generally I was entertained consistently throughout it. It sounds like I listed off a lot of new stuff, but really it does still play and feel just like a Tomb Raider game. It's absolutely familiar, and at some points I felt like I could play it with my eyes closed just because I played hours and hours and hours of these games. Thankfully, there are difficulty options, and there's a lot of different new settings you can tweak to kind of tailor your experience to how challenging you want it to be, which I really appreciate. Like I said in the beginning, if you weren't won over before, you won't be now, but I think if you're a hardcore fan of these games, you're gonna freaking love it and eat it up completely. I do already predict a lot of people complaining that this is something like Rise of the Tomb Raider 1.5. I disagree though. It may play the same, but there's no denying the amount of work put into this game. Some people just might be looking for a fresher experience. But me personally, I feel really satisfied with this gameplay and now with this whole supposed trilogy. The next game, I will say, needs to have a huge gameplay refresh or an overhaul, because after this, I might be a little bit more sick of that gameplay. But for now, like I said, I'm satisfied. I'll take killing soldiers in the mud and some really exciting and gruesome Uncharted level action set pieces any day of the week. I just like good action video games, and this is definitely one of them. But really, that's how a Before You Buy works. You know by now, I give you some pros, some cons, and some personal opinion, a lot here. But now I definitely want to hear what you guys think down in the comments. Apparently, you get access to the game a few days early if you buy a certain edition of it, if you pre-order it or whatever. Or maybe you're waiting until Friday. Whoever you are, I want to hear from you down in the comments what you think of Shadow of the Tomb Raider. And overall, what do you think of the whole series? Let's talk about anything Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Hit me up in the comments. I'll answer as many as I can. But of course, if you got anything else for me, hit me up on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Jake Baldino. If you enjoyed this video and learned something, clicking the like button helps us out. And if you're new, you should consider subscribing because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.
All full up. Can't carry any more.